Hello everybody, Flamin' Shark back with another video, and today we're going to be reacting to Owarimonogatari episodes 8 through 13. No, that doesn't sound right. No, yeah, that is right, 8 to 13. Yeah, because it's 6 episodes. Oh my goodness. 6 episodes of Monogatari. This is probably going to be a long video. It's also been a while since I watched Monogatari. Where we left off with the whole situation with Sodachi, we left off on a sort of like mystery thing where, but someone actually sent to me basically like a Reddit post that explained the situation there at the end and actually finding out what really happened there. So I got to learn that, generally speaking, they're Sodachi and Araragi are on good terms and stuff with where we left off, which was kind of left up to interpretation, but as it turns out, you actually can find out if you go all super meta, because Nisui seems crazy and wants you to figure crazy shit out like that. But it was a really fun arc. It was kind of like all of Owarimonogatari so far has been this Sodachi arc, and now we move on to something, and whatever happens in these 6 episodes should somewhat explain how we get to the end of Koyomi Monogatari, because there was the debate, because if I'm not mistaken, with the actual anime, it was Owarimonogatari first season, then Koyomi, then Owari second season. So I'm assuming what happens in these episodes will make what happened in Koyomi make somewhat more sense. I'm not necessarily expecting it to fully make sense, actually, until the events in Owari Season 2, to be honest, and potentially Zoku Owari, but I do expect it to make a little more sense, so that should be interesting. Very curious how these episodes are going to go, but this is a 6-episode Monogatari set, and I've been really busy and a bunch of crap's been going on, and obviously I got like the new setup, and this is kind of take 2. The Dragon Prince video, it looked good, but I still had to tinker it. I'm going to try and make the video look a little more white, a little less orange, which wasn't too bad besides when I was in this middle spot, but I still think there's work to do there. And I'm trying a tripod for the camera instead of like a really shitty setup, even though I had the tripod, but it's not important, but a slightly different deal there. Just tinkering with stuff to try and figure this setup out. But the tripods allowed me to have a little more room to where I can actually put my notes where I want to keep them. So my notes are kind of back in their original spot, which is nice. And I'm hoping everything works out here. But as with the other video, this is my new setup. I imagine, many of you might not have actually watched the Dragon Prince videos, but yeah, this is my new setup, so I don't have to make cuts. I probably will have a cut or two just for water, because this is going to be 6 episodes, but I don't have to make cuts. You'll notice the mic here on the edge of the screen. Don't worry, when I'm in my recording position, the mic is not visible. It's only when I'm doing the discussions directly to the camera like this, so the mic isn't a problem. And yeah, I mean, everything is great. So yeah, I'm really excited. I don't really want to waste any more time, because I'm assuming I'm gonna have a lot to say, because it's Monogatari, and especially given that it's 6 episodes, this is probably gonna be a video that's like insanely fucking long, like stupidly so, probably, to be completely honest. But I don't know, I look so white in this shot, but I know it comes out, I think, a little more orange, so it's probably fine. I don't know, I look really fucking white. This one I feel like I'm gonna look too white, and the last one it was still a little orange. I think I just have to deal with kind of looking, because I want to look kind of like, oh man, I don't know, just the infinite battle of color palette battle with this damn camera. Everything else I think is perfect, though. All right, let's dive in. So we have episode 8. This looks like it's called Shinobu Male, which should be fun. So let's jump into Shinobu Mail, episode 8 of Monogatari, Owarimonogatari, in 3, 2, 1, and play. This is an interesting variation of the ED, too. Obviously, instead of it being like Sodachi and Araragi, it's just the girl. And that should do it. Yes, it will. Alright, perfecto. Perfecto. Get this all set up. And get this off. And, yeah, that was... excuse me. It's like I want to burp, but the water doesn't have like carbonation or anything, and usually I don't really burp unless I'm drinking like soda or something or sparkling water, like something with carbonation. So it's got that weird feeling. Anyways, that was episode 8 of Owarimonogatari. That was an interesting episode. I didn't really have a lot to say as the episode was going on, but we spent a good portion of it, probably at least half of it, with just kind of these talking in circles with Kambaru, which, to be fair, is very enjoyable. I love Kambaru. It felt like she was she felt extra horny today. Like, she's always horny. She's always talking about, like, fucking, Araragi. To be fair, most of the characters, including other Araragis, are usually trying to fuck Koyomi. So that's really par for the course in Monogatari, but I will say that it did feel like a little extra in this particular case with Kambaru. She was really, really in the mood, braless and all. But, yeah, that was very fun. I definitely found that interesting. And so we kind of spent most of this episode just kind of chilling with one of the girls and hanging out and having fun, even though he did have a specific goal in mind, which was interrupted. So we don't even know what he was planning to do, because that was interrupted, of course. Who he wanted Kambaru to meet, because that was interrupted, of course, by the OG servant of Kiss Shot. And he's coming, in some form, is coming back from the grave or from God knows where to get back his sword and give Kiss Shot a late fee, as he put it. So that's going to be really interesting, because obviously he had this deep kind of issue with becoming a vampire and everything that happened in the story. So I definitely think it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out and how he how Araragi and him interact, given that they have kind of in some ways share similar fates, even if obviously the stuff with Koyomi has gone much different than the stuff with the samurai. And obviously Kiss Shot's in a much different place now, so to speak, than she was then. There's a lot that's happened in the past 400 years. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how this plays out. But I definitely don't know really what to make of what we saw. And I don't really think we have a lot to break down in this episode, because it does feel like it was mostly focused on just simply the fact that, like I said, it was a lot of Kambaru conversation, and I actually don't think there was really a lot to take from his conversations with Kambaru. I'm not entirely sure what the fuck happened with the flames, and Kambaru seemed to think that it was because of Hanakawa, which, I mean, maybe it was, because even the samurai mentioned stepping on the tiger's toes, and obviously when we're talking about a cat or even a tiger, you can that does kind of link back to, of course, Tsubasa, but I no idea what happened there. I suppose we might find out in the coming episodes, or maybe I'm just a dumbass, but it wouldn't be the first time I'm a dumbass, and this show is certainly a show that is always testing my dumbassery, because it's a really, really smart show, and that's always an experience. That's one of the reasons why I really like Monogatari, even though honestly, I could just go on and on and on with all the different reasons that I love this show, but that's a whole nother story. Anyways, that was a good episode. Definitely enjoyed it. Definitely thought it was a good start to the arc, but it definitely felt like, compared to a lot of times, the first episode of an arc, I feel like is a lot more substantial than this one. And you could kind of tell that this is the beginning of a long arc by Monogatari standards, because usually there's just so much in every episode, and it felt like this episode was really taking it slow, which again makes sense given that, again, we have 5 more episodes to watch in this video, and I'm assuming it's all one arc. So definitely took its time, which definitely meant that there wasn't as much super crazy, super interesting stuff to talk about, but I am excited to see where this goes. So yeah, I guess we'll jump into episode 9 of Owarimonogatari. Yeah, I know, I'm just being quiet. I'm just setting up the next episode here. Alright, let's do it. Let's jump into episode 9 of Owarimonogatari in 3, 2, 1, and play. Forever on the track. Alrighty. Move this over here as per usual. Alrighty, that was episode 9 of... Whoa, man. I'm on a cleanse where I'm not drinking soda, but I feel like I kind of need a soda right now, so I might actually pop open like a Sprite or a Coke or a Pib. I got a bunch of different soda. I got so much soda. I'm not drinking, but I have so much soda. Holy shit. I'm not gonna have to buy it for like a million years. But yeah, that was episode 9 of Owarimonogatari, and unlike episode 8, it definitely feels like the actual plot moved way faster than episode 8. Things really started to kick up into a higher gear, and it was really interesting because I'm not entirely sure what to make of a lot of that. We ended up getting lost on the way to seeing Guyan, and that was interesting because he did say, you know, go straight home, and the armored, the samurai guy, and it does seem like that was the cause of it, but Guyan referred to it as the snail, of course, which obviously is usually used to reference Hachikuji. And then we actually, because Kombaru is really smart, despite the fact that she acts like an idiot all the time, we actually get to our destination, and what ends up happening is we're in a situation where we find Shinobu, and we learn kind of what's been going on from her perspective, what she's up to. But then we run into the problem of finding out that she's been fighting the monkey, which not referring to Kombaru, but actually referring to this raincoat wearing potato, of course reminiscent of Tsuruga Monkey, the Kombaru arc in Bakemonogatari. And there it is. It appeared at the end of the episode, and I guess we'll have to find out what the fuck that's about in episode 10. But yeah, really interesting situation. Very hard to kind of guess what that's about. Like I said, all I can really say is we're probably going to find out more when we jump in to episode 10. I'm definitely curious where this is going. Anytime Guyan's involved, you know things are going to get weird. We've not seen her get involved too much in the story as a whole. And the other thing that's interesting right now is it doesn't, even though this started with basically Araragi telling This is supposed to be Araragi telling Ogi about this story, and in the process telling us about this story. But Ogi doesn't seem to have any involvement in this story. She's just being told about this story, even though Araragi is very suspicious of the fact that he very much believes that she actually already knows the story, even though the whole thing is about him telling her this story. So we can assume that she's going to have no involvement in this potato, and she'll come back into play when we get into second season, but hard to know for sure. You never know if she doesn't have some involvement in this, but based on the timing, I imagine not. I guess the other thing that's going to be interesting here is what this is going to lead to, and how this is going to kind of fit in with everything in the story, because like I said, I do think this will make what happened in Kiyomi make a little more sense. I say a little, but there's definitely all the people are coming into play, like with Gaian in play, and we might be seeing another. I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of this arc we potentially even run into more than just Gaian on the front of the squad. You guys know what I'm talking about, the group, because they're coming up quite a bit in this arc, and I could think of a certain other potato that might pop up in this. But yeah, this has been pretty interesting so far. I'm definitely curious to see where this goes. I wouldn't necessarily say these episodes have been like incredible. I definitely think, like I said, episode 8 felt a little. It was one of the few times in Monogatari where it felt like they were just doing the bits, right? And like I usually feel like these interactions have a lot of depth to them. That felt like one where it kind of just felt like we were doing the bits. Episode 9 was really interesting just because of all the weird stuff, but I definitely think this one's certainly hard to tell right now where I'm going to land on this arc. I mean, obviously we're only a third of the way through it, so we'll see where the coming episodes go, but I don't think I really have much else to say about it. So I'm actually going to cut here, get some more water, maybe even get some can of soda or something, because I kind of feel like I need to burp right now. But whatever the case may be, let's jump in to episode 10 of Owarimonogatari. Man, that's wild. That's fucking wild. Jesus Christ almighty. I'm just going to get episode 11 loaded up here real quick before I talk about episode 10, or at least try to. Jesus Christ, this has been even by Monogatari standards, this has been a fucking set. Jesus Christ almighty. Oh. That was episode 10 of Owarimonogatari. And it's funny because episode 8 was a thing. Episode 9, things started to pick up. Episode 10, not only did this go full Monogatari, this got fucking weird even for Monogatari, and I mean that in the best possible way. That was probably, and we've had maybe one other moment that was kind of like Gaian showing how Gaian she truly is, but that was probably the most Gaian scene in the entire fucking show, and it was terrifying and amazing, and it was very strange to see her in that, it was very strange to have that moment with her, and for her to really just, she's the perfect narrator to tell the story of the samurai, and it just, something about the way that she tells that story just emphasizes it so well and really makes everything seem so much worse, and just makes the story feel infinitely more tragic and brutal and just unfortunate. I mean, for lack of a better word, I guess it's just, it makes it feel so unfortunate, and it's a really interesting, it's just really interesting to see that all come to pass, and I really found that to be something really, really cool about she just has a certain way of storytelling that comes across, and I don't know if that's just the way the character is written, or perhaps possibly also a testament to her seiyuu, to her voice actress, because there's just a real talent there. I think it's a combination of the writing of the character as well as the performance of the VA, but it's really interesting to see how that comes across in such a way, and I think that's something I really liked about this episode, is I feel like Guyan's performance really kind of made that work, and obviously like the facial expressions were crazy, and just the whole situation, both from all aspects of what make it like that was the type of scene that I think really held its weight as an anime scene, and really I think took advantage of the fact that this is an anime, right, as opposed to, you know, what it was adapted from. Oh man, where do I even start, though? I mean, as far as the actual specifics of all of that, I mean, talk about a fate worse than death. I feel like that's still underselling just how much of a hell he must have lived through. I mean, that is not even remotely the concept here, because you're talking about something on a much deeper level, since he was never really alive. He doesn't really feel it in the same sense, and yet at the same time he still existed that entire time. It's a really interesting thought experiment when you even try to imagine what that could even have potentially have been like. It's such a foreign thought to us as human beings that it's just really interesting to hear it. It's really interesting to think about it. So I definitely find that something really cool, is just trying to imagine what that would be like, and obviously we can't, because we just don't have that ability to understand what something like that would be like. And I think anytime in fiction we get into things that we can't possibly comprehend, I always find that interesting, just to think about that and even try to imagine what that could possibly be like. So I love stuff like that. It's very interesting, and I think there's just something about it coming out of her mouth that just makes it even more, somehow makes it sound even worse than it would otherwise be, and in any context it's the fucking shits, right? But yeah, that was really interesting, and I really, like I said, I really found that really interesting, and I'm very curious. I'm very curious to kind of just see more of that, and to see further where Guyan goes with all of this, because she's also kind of implying that everything we've been watching, it's hardly a coincidence, and that, obviously Araragi's been undervaluing who he is as a person, but also just kind of bringing together the fact that this story has been, that he's kind of played off so much of this story as a collection of coincidences, when in reality she's kind of breaking down that perhaps much of this was not a coincidence, and in fact most of this was something more, because really when you do look at it, there are a lot of narrative coincidences that look like a bit much, and that's something that you could really, when you look at it at a deeper level, you can say that about all kinds of different stories, but this is kind of where the meta element plays in, right, where there's something different about it, because in this particular case you have a situation where it's Nisio Isin, so he's a fucking madman, and he would think about this type of stuff, and he wouldn't do this stuff on purpose, so it's totally believable for me that Guyan is going to get into some crazy reveals in this next episode that's going to be wild. And it's really funny, because it's so Monogatari that we have this conflict in this arc with the samurai, and yet we're spending more time explaining how all of this stuff makes sense and explaining the purpose behind it than actually dealing with the problem, because in the end the actual conflict is not what's important in Monogatari. It pretty much never is. It's always a deeper thing than that. And I always will kind of reference Koi Monogatari, which was of course the Kaiki mindfuck arc, but it was an arc about stopping it was an arc about stopping Nadeko, and yet the whole thing was really just Kaiki thinking about what he was going to do about Nadeko. That was basically what the whole thing was. And in the end, he dealt with Nadeko, and that was that. But really, the whole thing was about him preparing and thinking about how he was going to tackle this, not actually tackling it. And that's kind of a trend in Monogatari. So often it's about a great example of it's about the journey, not the destination. I think that's like, this show is one of the primary examples of that in a literary sense, right? Or in a fictional sense. And I think we're in that kind of situation where this story that we're in right now is so much more about the journey than the destination. It's not about how we solve the problem, but it's about what we go through in the process to find out how to solve the problem. And that's a common thread in Monogatari. This happens all the time in Monogatari. So yeah, that's something that's very fitting to, of course, be happening here as well. And of course, with Guyan at the helm of it, it's a mind fuck. It's crazy, and it's super interesting to see how she might potentially be unraveling this entire series right now, which certainly only adds to the feeling of it being the end story, even though, again, while it is the end story in the anime, it's not actually the end story, because Nisio seems a memer. But regardless, he's an Oshino memer. But regardless, that was a fun episode. That was definitely an episode that had some spice to it that I certainly wasn't expecting. And now I think it's time that we check out episode 11 and find out what the fuck our girl is actually teasing over here, and if she actually tells us anything, or if she just fucking trolls us, because I could see her just being a cock tease as well, even though she claims to be, she basically said that she wasn't going to, but, I mean, can we really trust her? And she might just be messing with us anyways. There's so many levels to this, but whatever the case may be, let's jump in to episode 11 of Owarimonogatari in 3, 2, 1, and play. What I might have to figure out is maybe I take my PS4 out and I put my laptop here, and maybe I set it up to where I'm recording through my laptop or something. So I can like look at my laptop. I can look this way and like over at my laptop. That might actually be the play, but I think this is working out fine. I think, but I can't fully check until after we're done with the reaction, when I can go back and watch the VOD before I actually edit it and stuff. But yeah, that was episode 11 of Owarimonogatari. That was awesome. Holy shit, this just keeps getting better and better, as I guess you'd kind of expect, because this is Monogatari. I don't know, it's so funny. I watched the first episode of this one and I was like, okay, like, I actually felt like episode 8 was one of the weaker episodes of the series, and then episode 9 I was like, okay, that one was stronger, and then episode 10 was like, man, that was good, and then episode 11 I'm like, wow, that was really fun. So it was definitely one of those things where we have this slower build with this 6-episode arc, and I think because of it, the first episode of this set was one of the weaker Monogatari episodes, but this has been building really well, and I'm looking at this arc overall, still with 2 more episodes left in play, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm having a lot of fun. I don't think this will go down as like my favorite Monogatari arc or anything, but it is very good. And That was very fun. I do like how often BL comes up when it comes to Kambaru and Koyomi. I think it's pretty funny, and the fact that he had to buy essentially softcore BL, a softcore BL LN for her, and supposedly a bra as well, potentially. We'll have to see whether he actually does that or not. But before that, he's apparently run into the boy. He's apparently run into the first, as it were, and he's gonna have a little conversation with the samurai, who's looking like a little trap for some reason. I guess because that's how far he's gotten. Maybe that's what he looked like when he was a kid or something, and that's like his form now. He hasn't manifested his like full like form as like an adult at this point. I'm assuming that's where they're going with that. But whatever the case may be, that certainly will be interesting to see how that plays out. But I'm really enjoying this. I'm having a lot of fun. It's so nice to watch Monogatari again. Like, I've just had so much bullshit going on in life. Of course I've had this. I've had to deal with some people trying to like hack my shit. I've had to deal with just a bunch of dumb stuff lately, and it's just so nice to be able to watch this show and just have fun with you guys and everything. I'm really enjoying it, and I hope you guys are enjoying it too. It's been a lot of fun, but I'm definitely excited to be able to actually get this stuff popping right now, because it's been kind of weird lately. And hopefully there'll be a lot of videos coming out again. I'm hoping at least by the time the new year comes around, we can get back to being really consistent and stuff. But yeah, that was a little sidetrack there, but I definitely found all the stuff with Guyan really interesting, and how she's kind of saying, take care of it. This is your mess. Take responsibility for your mess, referring to both Aragi and Shinobu. And obviously our girl Kambaru is kind of just around doing her thing, and we are kind of just preparing for this, and in the process it looks like I said, we're gonna have a chat with the boy himself, and I assume that will eventually lead into whatever the finale ends up being with him, so that'll be fun. Oh. But yeah, I think it's weird. I'm trying to think, like, I will say the one thing about this arc, and I went into it and I was like, oh man, I'm doing a 6-episode Monogatari set. And of course, just because it's 6 episodes, it's probably going to be like a 3-hour video anyways. But I was worried, this is going to be a 3.5-hour video, or God forbid, like a 4-hour video if I really have a ton to say. But so much of this, like the last 2 episodes have pretty much almost entirely just been like Guyan giving us a fucking lecture about how all this came to pass, and then basically the rest of the episode was memes about BL. So it's like, as amazing as that was, as entertaining and interesting as all of that was, I don't really have a lot to like say about it. So it's kind of weird. I'm so used to having a lot to say about it. Then I see that the recording is 2 hours and 14 minutes in, and I know that a little bit of that will get cut out in editing from like when I got some water and stuff, but I'm still definitely over 2 hours, which means I'm sure this video will still easily be over 3 hours, I'm sure. But it's definitely been a lot of fun. I'm really enjoying this, and I hope you guys are enjoying it too, because we don't have that much Monogatari left. It's kind of crazy to think about it, but after we finish this video, I think we have after this 13 episodes left. I actually have not downloaded Owari Season 2 or Zoku yet, but actually checking my sets, yeah, we have fucking 4 videos left. That is actually insane. We have 4 more videos left of Monogatari after this, and we have, I believe it is 13 episodes, because my sets split second season into 3 videos, and then I'm going to do Zoku all on its own, but I'm pretty sure Zoku is 6 episodes, so I'm pretty sure Zoku will be like this set, where the final Monogatari set, like this one, will be a big, fat Monogatari video, which is fair, because the next couple Monogatari videos are going to be on the shorter side, so you kind of had some shorter ones, then you get this fat one, and then the next few are going to be short, and then the final one is going to be a long boy. But, yeah, I think I'm just going to jump into episode 12 of Owarimonogatari. I think this time, for real, I actually need more water. I still have some, but I am getting a little lower. Whew. Alright, so I'm going to fill this up. I'm still thinking about maybe getting a soda, just because I kind of really want to burp. And I just don't have it in me. So I'll see you guys in a flash, and we'll jump into episode 12 of Owarimonogatari. Yeah, we're not chill. We're done here. That was the greatest. Oh my god, that was one of my favorite scenes. Not of Monogatari. Yeah, how long was this? Yeah, this was about a 10-minute. Yeah, it was basically a 10-minute scene. That was basically half the episode. I mean, that's not that surprising, specifically because it's Monogatari, but I am not joking when I say that was one of the best. That was one of the best scenes I think I've ever seen. Just period. Christ almighty, what? Like, Kambaru might have just became my favorite character. And I know that, like, I've talked about how it's probably the hardest favorite character to choose, maybe in any anime I've ever watched. But I think Kambaru, because here's the thing, right? I love Hanakawa, I love Senjo Gahara, I love Kambaru, I love Shinobu, I love Araragi. Like, I love everyone, basically, is the point. So there's so many contenders, and I struggle so hard to really separate them, because I feel like the character writing in Monogatari is on par with any series I've ever seen. It's absolutely fantastic. I think the characters are just so well built, and the relationships and dynamics that Araragi has with the various girls is just so fantastic, and I just love every bit of it, and it's really amazing to see how well they put everything together in this series. And I think that's one of the things that makes this one of my favorite shows I've ever watched, right? This makes it one of my favorite anime and one of my favorite series of all time. And I think it's one of the hardest to grade because it's such a unique journey, and it structurally is so unique, but it has had its fair share of moments where I have just been at a loss for words. And I have to say, I don't know if there was a scene I liked more in this entire series than the scene we just had between Shinobu and Kambaru. It was absolutely phenomenal. It was brilliant. It was something that I don't know what to say. It was one of the greatest things I've ever seen. It was absolutely beautiful. And yeah, I just, there's really not a whole lot else to say. I'm kind of at a loss. It's beautiful. Somehow this hasn't come up, and I was thinking about just showing it at the end, but I have this figure, which is kind of cool. Kind of get a look here, and then actually look at the figure. But it's a crossover Madoka and Monogatari figure, but it's Shinobu holding Kyubey, and Kyubey's got like a donut in his mouth, so it's kind of cute. I figured I'd show you guys that. I totally forgot. I totally kind of forgot about that. I think it's like one of the cheapest figures I have, because I don't, most of my figures are relatively on the higher end, so to speak. I'm a bit of a snob when it comes to them, but that one was cute, and I figured I'd show you guys that, and I kind of totally forgot about it, and it's so funny because this is a Shinobu arc, so it really is the perfect time to show that. But I figure, yeah. Figured I'd mention it before I forget, especially when Shinobu was part of, I think, my favorite Monogatari scene of all time just now, and she was not the reason why it was my favorite scene of all time. It was definitely Kambaru. You guys know I have a Senju Gahara figure, and I also have that little Shinobu figure, but I definitely think Kambaru is probably next, even though I'd love a Hanakawa one as well. I mean, you guys know. This is a series that over the years I'm sure I'll have a nice collection of figures out from Monogatari, but I mean, just absolutely fantastic. What more is there to say? I think this was one of the this was just insane. This was, oh man, I don't know what to say. I mean, we also just some other side notes. Let me try and talk about the other things that happened in this episode. Funny word, episode, isn't it? We'll get to that in a second as well. But obviously, we had the conversation between the first and Koyomi, and that was pretty interesting. He tried to bait you into drinking holy water, which was pretty memes. But I definitely really enjoyed that episode, that portion of the episode. I thought that was pretty interesting to see him try and essentially convince Araragi why to go about this. And then, of course, right before things got really sus, out of nowhere comes Episode's giant-ass cross, and here's Episode and Guyan, because Guyan brought in the heavy artillery, and that's not who I thought it was going to be in the slightest, but that was certainly, I mean, it makes sense. A vampire hunter certainly makes sense, and that was really fucking cool. So that was a really cool appearance, and yeah, they basically are setting everything up for a duel between the first boy and Koyomi, which obviously is what we're going to be doing in episode 13 in a few minutes. But yeah, I mean, that was just fantastic. I mean, what more is there to say, really? That was so fucking cool to see Episode pop in out of nowhere, and that was such a cool reveal with just his cross flying in, knocking away the tea that wasn't tea, and just fucking him up. That was hysterical. And yeah, Guyan just, like I said, pulling those strings as she does, and that obviously led into the whole scene with Kambaru and Shinobu that just blew me away. I mean, it was not even a scene. I mean, it was a great scene in a vacuum, but I think the fact that, like, this has been an overlying message of Nisio Isin the entire series made that scene feel like the culmination of everything this story was about. I watched that scene and thought, that is Monogatari. Like, what Kambaru was saying was the entire point, right? It was the point of this entire story, and it makes me emotional thinking about it, because it's such a beautiful message, and it can be messy at times, but in the end, you have to talk to people. You can't hold everything in, because people will never know how you feel, and sometimes you have to tell people things you don't want to tell them. But in the end, to live life, you have to be honest with people. You have to tell them. You have to express how you feel one way or another, right? And that's something that I think everyone can relate to, whether or not they're kind of more of the Kambaru or more of the Shinobu in the situation. It's such an important thing, and I think Kambaru, I've always loved her to pieces, but I think that was the defining moment of her character, and like I said, probably the defining moment of this entire series. And I think if I had any doubts about Monogatari being one of my favorite anime of all time, I think that would have been the push. I don't think I had any doubts at this point, but that would have been the push that pushed it over the top. And I think where I think it actually might have been a push over the top is I think it might have been the thing that pushed Kambaru ahead of the pack as my favorite character in Monogatari. That was just brilliant. I mean, there's just nothing else to say. I kind of fell in love with her. And you guys know I love her and pretty much all the characters in this show, but I feel like I really fell in love with her because I resonated with her on a level that I very rarely resonate with anyone, and I just understood, and I felt like I was her. I felt like I was talking to Shinobu, trying to get through to her, and that was one of the best scenes of this entire show, if not the best. And that is saying so much, because man, have we had so many great scenes. How many incredible conversations between two characters have we had in this fucking show? Like, it's unreal. And to think that that was probably the best one in this entire show, in my personal opinion. Like, you really have to put that into perspective, because this show is basically a show of conversations between characters, and we've had like a gazillion episodes of this show. So, fuck me. It's incredible. Holy shit. Oh my god. Holy fuck. Unreal. Unreal. It's 1 in the morning now on December 20th. Hopefully I'll get this out today. Today now. This is going to be such a long video. We're almost at 3 hours in the recording. We're about 6 minutes away, and I know there were 2 cuts in there, but not much of that's cut out. Oh, jeez. And we still have a whole nother episode. Oh, we might still have a 3.5 hour video. Yeah, probably not. But, fuck. I just don't know what else to say. That was fucking nuts. That was like... that was the best episode. Like... it was the best episode of this reaction. It has to be one of the best episodes of Monogatari. I think the best way I could say it is I think that pushed Kambaru over the top as my favorite character in Monogatari. I think that's, at its core, the easiest way I can describe how I feel coming off of that episode. It's just, what a fucking goat. I mean, that episode epitomized everything Monogatari is about and everything that makes it so good. It's really amazing. Like, I really have to give Nishio Isin his props, because he boiled down the entire series into one scene, and it just... That scene in a vacuum would be incredible, but the fact that he's been preaching it the entire series, and to see it come into play like that just makes... It's goated. Like, there's just no other way to put it. Like, that was actually just one of my favorite scenes I've ever seen in anything ever. And, yeah, that absolute fucking perfection. We still have one more episode left of, we still have one more episode left of this never-ending arc of Shinobu Male. So, let's jump in to episode 13 of Owarimonogatari. In 3, 2, 1, and play. Wow. Isn't that funny? This song worked in a couple senses. That certainly was a bit unexpected, I suppose. Holy shit. Holy fuck. Oh my god. That was Shinobu Male. That was episode 13 of Owarimonogatari, Shinobu Male Part 6. And in general, that was Shinobu Male. And, I didn't think it was going to get there, because episode 7 I thought was one of the weaker episodes of the series. Episode 8 was good, but still even maybe a little on the weaker side for Monogatari. this arc got there. The last 2 episodes were, to me, 2 of the best episodes of Monogatari. I thought the conclusion to this arc was one of the most satisfying conclusions of the entire series. I fucking loved it. And here we are, and sure enough, we're in this spot where now I don't really know what to say as far as Monogatari goes. It's such a brilliant series. It feels like so much of what this show has been about kind of climaxed in those last 2 episodes and in the conversations we had. And, in that moment with Shinobu and Seshiro, I believe it was, that was phenomenal. And it was really interesting. It's really interesting that they told this story in the form of Araragi telling it to Ogi too. That was another thing that was interesting. That was kind of how this story, despite having nothing to do with Ogi, still tied into Ogi, which was really cool. But fantastic. It's hard to really say anything else. This was just absolutely phenomenal. I loved this episode. I thought it was such a great, and yet it was an incredible conclusion, filled with irony and sorrow, and yet it just made so much sense. And I think just everything about where we left off made so much sense. And now we have to die. I can't wait to see how that plays out. Obviously, I'm sure you obviously have watched my reactions to Owarimonogatari, but I'm very curious what second season's going to look like, and really just these last 4 reactions. I can't believe we only have 4 more videos of Monogatari. That is crazy. That is crazy, and also the fact that we're as close as we are to the show that will be replacing this, which honestly, if things didn't get so wild for me, we probably would already be at the series that's replacing it. But I'm so excited for that. I'm so excited to get to the show that comes after Monogatari, but I'm dreading this final run of Monogatari. I thought, this set... and you guys know this, I know full well to never underestimate the power of Nisio Isin and the power of Monogatari, because this show has always manages to impress. When I think it can't really impress me any more than it has, it manages to impress me. Today, though, it really impressed me in a full circle kind of way. The stuff that happened in this set just felt very full circle and felt like the type of thing that we've been leading to this entire time. It was a moment that just felt like everything came together. It felt like everything in the series was leading up to that moment where we, again, had that conversation between Shinobu and Kambaru, and even just there were other smaller conversations after that in the final episode in 13 that kind of expanded on that in their own way. Obviously, I feel like the Shinobu Kambaru scene was kind of like the magnum opus, but even then there was kind of in the falling action, not necessarily the falling action of the plot, but to me almost episode 13 was the falling action, just because to me, even though we still had the duel, to me, the climax of the story was that moment with Shinobu and Kambaru. I saw that as the true climax, because that was, to me, that was the emotional climax, and that was, that was what it was all about. And the stuff that came afterwards was nowhere near as important. So you get what I'm saying, I'm sure. But absolutely insane, brilliant. What more is there to say? It was absolutely brilliant. And I feel for Shinobu, and you get where Aragi's coming from and all of this, and it's just so easy to put yourself in the mindscape of the characters and understand what they're thinking and why they're thinking the way they're thinking. Except for Guyan and Ogi, they're just fucking insane. God only knows what the hell they're ever thinking. Like, you can never figure out what's going on in their heads, of course, but that's kind of a bit of a different story. That's kind of something else entirely. They're demons, basically. They're the real demons of this story. It's damn Ogi and the freaking the college club potatoes, fucking Meme and fucking Izuko and fucking Kagenui, and then Ogi is a demon too, so it's the demon club. So yeah, it's Ogi's on her own, like, totally different island of just what the fuck is she doing. But the college people are kind of all like that. The fact that Oshino turned out to be the least weird one somehow is probably the weirdest thing about this show, is somehow Oshino is like the normal one. That says a lot about the people we've met since he left the story. Shouts to my boy Kaiki for being Kaiki. But yeah, that was an experience. I'm very excited to have 3 more videos of Monogatari where I don't have to watch, like, over 3 hours. I don't have to, I mean, it's not actually 3 hours, whatever, but 6 episodes worth of Monogatari, because I feel like my brain would have just exploded, and I feel like the only reason I was able to handle this was because, at least, like, in the beginning, it wasn't too intense. And, like, at least Ogi wasn't doing Ogi things, although in its place I got Guyan doing Guyan things. So, like, I don't know, that feels like a fair trade-off, I guess. But I will admit that even though that my brain is starting to feel it now. It's starting to be like, oh my god, that's a lot of Monogatari to take in. Holy shit. Whew. Oh. What an amazing set of episodes, though. I mean, Monogatari never disappoints, like I said. That was fantastic. I don't really think I have much else to say. That was just a great experience. Really enjoyable, and fuck, I mean, God only knows what's coming next. Even though we do have a hint of an idea from Koyomi Monogatari of what actually is coming next, I still have no fucking clue what's coming next, because it's Monogatari. And even though we, again, have a base idea, God only knows what's going to happen, especially on that portion of the journey, since that in of itself is pretty what the fuck inducing. But, yeah, I can't wait to find out, nevertheless. And, God, I mean, obviously, if you haven't watched my Koyomi Monogatari reaction, do that. Or reactions. I think it was actually 2 videos. I think I split it in half because I didn't want to do all 12 of the shorts together. But, yeah. Specifically, the last one is very important. But, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens next time. I can't fucking wait. It's gonna be awesome. But, yeah, I'm ready to wrap this video up and get to editing this and seeing if the lighting was good and everything, and seeing if my angles were better. I think my angles were better. I don't know if they were perfect, but I definitely think they were better than the Dragon Prince episode. The Dragon Prince episode didn't come out quite as well as I would have hoped. I'm hoping this one does, though. So, yeah. Anyways, I think that's going to do it for the video. So if you guys want to support the channel, my Patreon's down below in the description, as is my Discord server if you want to check that out. Like I said, I'll probably be back on there soon. Or I don't know. Whatever the case may be, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, those you've not yet decided, without any further ado, it is time for me to bid you adieu. The Flamin' Shark signing out. Hope you guys have a wonderful, fantastical day, and I'll see you next time with another video. Thanks for watching. Peace.